Then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane, and said to the disciples, "Sit here while I go and pray over there." And he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and he began to be sorrowful and deeply distressed. Then he said to them, "My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch with me." He went a little further and fell on his face and prayed, saying, "O my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping, and said to Peter, "What? Could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray, lest you enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." We're standing in an in-between place. Behind me and below me is the path that Jesus and his disciples would have taken after leaving the Last Supper, the Passover feast they shared together, went out singing Psalm 18, a hymn that was typically used at the end of the Passover Seder. They made their way up probably about 100 feet, 200 feet beyond where I'm standing right now, the place we know as the Garden of Gethsemane. A little known fact is that translated Gethsemane means olive press. And of course, what Jesus was going to face was the pressing weight of the world's sin on his shoulders, causing him to cry out and his Father to send him angels to strengthen him. It's very easy for us to overlook the groaning and the weight he carried. Surely his physical death would be terrible, although probably there are some deaths more terrible than his physically. But spiritually and emotionally, none can match it. And he knew 200 yards over the top of the hill in the Judean desert, he could have his freedom. The Romans couldn't follow him. He knew his way around there. He could keep himself safe, and he knew how to survive. But instead, after asking the Lord, his Father, could this cup be removed? He pressed forward for our sake because he knew the answer to the question and was grateful for the help he received in the form of the Spirit of God and his angels to get him where he needed to go, all the way back down that hill and over to the place where he would be crucified after multiple interrogations and lashings and a crown of thorns. It's not easy for we modern Westerners to fully grasp the implication of the place and the spiritual weight it would have had on Jesus' mind. Just to my right are hundreds and hundreds of graves, because Jewish people believed this would be the place, the Mount of Olives, where judgment would come on all the world and its evils. But Jesus, as he knelt, knew that he was carrying all those evils and sins on his own back to the cross the next day. He knew that the interrogation he would undergo would be brutal and bitter, and he knew he would be called upon to deny God, but he wouldn't, and he knew what he would face, dying by execution. Above me in the garden, where Christians have been coming since sometime before 313, the first church was established there, but pilgrims came much before that. We know this is the place where Jesus knelt. The olive trees are ancient, although not so ancient as some people say, maybe 800 years. But the atmosphere, though smaller now than it was in Jesus' day, is still the same. The quiet, the peace, the seeming serenity of the place, that in fact was the place where the world's greatest agonies and spiritual battle took place. There are lots of things to be said about the garden, about the apostles falling asleep and those things, but really only one thing counts: that the Savior of the world and the hero of all mankind who will receive him knelt beneath the weight of its sins and resolved with the help of his Father to go forward to the resolution of those sins and the redemption of the world.